balance in everything is really important. So I'm not sure how I would feel about living in the wild forever without ever going into a city.
Right.
Traveling has served different purposes, but it always helped me understand this world, understand cultures and people. In terms of climbing mountains and trekking in the mountains, the path is always so incredibly diverse. And it's challenging, it's difficult. Challenges are healthy, challenges turn me on. And every single step was a step either to grasp onto the next minute of life or to plummet into death. So I think after that mountain, it really made me realize if I can survive something as difficult as that, then I can do anything in this world.
Would you say that whenever nature can be used and traveling in the mountains can be used as a sort of distraction from daily problems, distraction from psychological issues that you overcome in the big city life during your cash up terms? Or you don't need distraction basically, and you don't use nature as a way of counterbalancing your everyday issues, which we all face with. Since you said that you trade your freedom to someone else, so you get a fixed salary, you get a sort of not necessarily the illusion, but the illusion of safety and security. And therefore, as soon as you hit nature, then you can use it as a distraction, or you don't need this. You don't need to be distracted from those things. You are able to.
Yeah, I don't think of the word distraction as being appropriate for how I feel.
In nature, right?
Yeah, definitely. I think the word distraction kind of entails that you have been interrupted from what you want to do, from what you should be doing, and being in the city is not the primal place where I want to be. So being in nature is not a distraction from that. I think balance in everything is really important. So I'm not sure how I would feel about living in the wild forever without ever going into a city. But I think, I really enjoy learning and developing myself, finding meaning in life, and I think I can do that intellectually in the city through educating myself in an urban setting. And I think I can grow spiritually in nature because you have the space, you have the distance, you have the time in order to expand outwards and in order to process what you have been taking in other areas of your life. So you certainly have the space to reflect and to introspect. But I think I don't even think about my problems so much as I meditate when I walk. I kind of really enjoy being observant and really noticing the change of the colours in the sky, or noticing, how nature unfolds, or being really focused in solving a problem such as how to cross a river that has, wild rapids, or how to get from one place to another that is quite technical. So I think, when you are really focused in the present moment and you don't have space to think about other problems far away, then that is a type of meditation, like playing music or like meditating itself.
What's your drive when you choose a destination, when you choose a project? Because you did a number of different projects in your life as a backpacker, as whatever, but what's your drive when you choose a destination, when you choose an approach, like walking or studying or trying to experience nature? What's your drive?
Yes. So I spoke to you the other day about traveling in different ways. So, you know,
I know your answer. I'm just making up.
Yes, no, sure. So yes, I just wanted to give some background before I answer this question. So yes, I've been traveling as a researcher, volunteer, working abroad, and working with scientists. So in all sorts of modes, not just backpacking, not just traveling, but, you know, through various modes to have different types of experiences abroad. But I think if I was to think of the single thread that ties every single country or every single destination of those countries that I've been to, it's actually mountains.
Okay.
Yes. So that's not, I didn't talk about that the other day. I have a spiritual connection with mountains.
Beautiful.
So I think, you know, it's the mountains that draw me. And now, and because I know it so well now, I specifically look for mountains.
Okay.
Yeah, so
How do they charge you spiritually? What do mountains give you that you're so bound to them?
If only I knew the answer.
Okay.
I don't know what it is, but it's, I mean, if you look at it from a cultural and historical point of view, mountains have always been the spiritual centres across cultures.
Yeah.
There's something powerful about them. I don't know what, but, you know, they have their own climate system up on the peaks, and they are majestic and powerful, and they provide water, they provide rain, they in some ways are pivotal to the creation of life.
Okay.
And yes, I really can't answer that question, really. I don't know what it is, but I think seeing a mountain makes me feel alive.
All right, so you don't need to climb the mountain to feel connected with the mountain itself. It's enough if you are around or track around or see it. Therefore, like you are a heartbeat away from
Yeah, definitely. I need to be very, very close to the mountains and somewhere high. Okay. So I think, you know, I mean, we've got mountains all around Bishkek, and in the mornings when it's not too polluted here, you can definitely see the mountains, but I don't think that's enough. I think I actually need to be in the mountain, whether that's right at the base or somewhere halfway up or, you know, climbing the mountain to the summit. Yeah, and I think in terms of climbing mountains and trekking in the mountains, the path is always so incredibly, incredibly diverse, and it's never the same. You know, it's not like walking on a flat road where every step is more or less the same and you can kind of tune out and still walk forward. I think with a mountain, you have to be focused. You have to be focused, and therefore you are really in the zone. You are really turned on mentally and physically. And it's challenging, it's difficult. So, you know, I think challenges are healthy. Challenges turn me on.
A true traveler, explorer. So got two more questions for you.
Yeah.
You travel in a number of ways,
yes.
right? Mm-hmm. Depends on your mood, your desire, appetite, whatever. How do you define yourself? You are clear. You, as you said yesterday, you don't see and perceive yourself as a backpacker. Then how do you perceive yourself? Because you have a number of professions related to nature, related to traveling, and therefore you are highly involved in this kind of area. So how do you see yourself? How do you perceive yourself? How would you define yourself? Who are you?
I think that changes all the time, and you know, I think it's healthy and natural for identity to change throughout one's lifetime. But I was originally the daughter of a Chinese immigrant who went to Australia, grew up in Australia, and then found
You're
that
still a
I
daughter
was...
of that.
That's right, yes. And I see myself sometimes as Australian, sometimes as Chinese, and sometimes just as a person. But, you know, I had to navigate through a lot of questions regarding identity. And so originally traveling really helped me find who I was in terms of ethnic identity and in terms of who I was in this world.
So you peeled off all the layers of the onion sort of through traveling. Where you could see the core, where you could find the core.
Well, yeah, I was at least seeking. I don't know if I found all of it. I'm very comfortable in who I am now, but you know, I don't think it might not be finite.
Right.
Yeah. But yeah, so I was certainly searching through traveling, and I started backpacking. But also, I've got an incredibly curious mind, so I can't help but study. So I've studied overseas. I studied music. And I think identifying with different cultures really helps me feel at home as a member of the Chinese diaspora, as an international citizen.
Right.
So I think, you know, the interest in finding out about other cultures took me to different countries as an anthropologist, as a researcher, as somebody who wants to understand different cultures. So I think, you know, traveling has served different purposes, but it always helped me understand this world, understand cultures and people, my relationship with this world and my relationship with people. Okay. So I think it always boils down to understanding life in general. So however, you know, I do that gives me meaning. And I think because I accidentally discovered mountaineering, that took me...
How can you accidentally explore mountaineering? It's not something like eating a chocolate donut instead of a peanut donut.
Yes, so how I accidentally discovered and fell in love with mountaineering was there is a mountain called Alsangate in Peru. It's one of the most spiritual mountains where traditionally during Incan times the Incans and the Andeans would come from all four corners of the Inca Empire, which stretched the whole continent of South America. And they would go to this mountain on a pilgrimage, and they would basically walk around the mountain 3 times and make offerings to the mountain, which is called apu. So they believed that all inanimate objects in nature were alive, and the mountain was apu, and the land was Pachamama, which translates to Mother Earth in English. So they would make offerings. And I thought, after living in Peru for 3 years, I thought, it's time for me to make this pilgrimage. I thought, you know, I had done everything to try and understand the local culture, to be accepted by the local people, to forge genuine relationships with local people. And I thought, but the deepest way for me at that point was to be accepted by the land and to have a relationship with the land, especially because that was one of the most important things for the local people, to develop their relationship with the land in order to be looked after.
So that was a way of sort of integration to society there, because those people have their one aim, single aim in their life connected to the land, and therefore by you connecting to the land, you are integrating to that society?
No, not so much. It was more that trying to see the world through Andean eyes. And once I understood that the relationship between land and people was so important because land gave them food, it gave them life. So they really, you know, they really worshipped the power of this land. I began to understand the land through their eyes, and I saw the power of the land as well. And so I wanted for myself to have this relationship with the land. And I certainly wanted to return to the Andes because I always felt this special energy and connection that I had with the land and the culture there. So I thought, okay, before I leave, I wanted to make this pilgrimage. But of course, I came across some friends who were mountaineers, and they had planned to summit the mountain rather than walk around the base, and they were local Andeans.
Isn't it? Okay.
Yes.
In spiritualism and in religion, basically, if a mountain is a pilgrimage, then you're not supposed to summit those mountains.
Well,
it's not in that one.
That's what I thought,
All right.
because that's certainly the case in a lot of cultures. I asked these guys about that, and they said, that is true unless you make an offering to the mountain spirit and ask permission.
There is a way to get around, right?
Well, that's at least how they felt.
Right.
And I think at the end of the day, it's your individual relationship with nature.
Whether you perceive it as a good deed through the offering, or whether you perceive it as a negative, and as soon as you perceive it as negative, and it's going to come back to you.
Perhaps.
As a punishment.
Yeah,
from karma,
perhaps.
from universe, you name it, whatever you believe in.
That's right. So the Andean people didn't traditionally summit mountain peaks, but they'd always practice sacrifices up high, especially around alpine lakes up high. So, but you know, I think as the world is changing, people's relationship with their worldview also changes. And sometimes there's that flexibility where, as long as you have respect for nature or for the worldview, and your actions are, there's good intentions behind your actions, then it's okay for individual interpretation. So anyway, I became immediately excited by this, and I said, wow, can I come? I really want to come, because I wanted to do a pilgrimage around the mountain anyway. And at first they said, oh, it's very difficult, it's very technical, it's very cold, it's very long. And I thought, that's all the better, let's do it, you know. And I was absolutely convinced that I wanted to do it. So they took me seriously, and we planned it, and we went. It was a 10-day expedition.
A 10-day expedition.
That's right. And the last 500 meters before the summit was a near vertical wall of about 70 degrees. So it was extremely difficult. It was a very technical climb. And I think to now, of all the climbs that I have done, it's still the most technical that I've done. And it was the first ever mountain that I'd climbed.
Straight into deep water, right?
Straight into the deep end. And I also got pulmonary edema as a consequence. However, when I survived that experience...
Look at my face, your story just... beautiful. That's why I'm doing this shit. It's
right. So,
by the way, just to let you know, for in the last 20 minutes, half of the audience have already noticed what you're talking about.
Right. Okay. Well, I'm glad.
Mission accomplished.
I hope they're following.
But it's still not a direct evidence.
Right. Yes. So I think after that mountain, it really made me realize, if I can survive something as difficult as that, then I can do anything in this world. And it really gave me strength for the next 6 years. And of course,
so it was 6 years ago.
It was 6 years ago. That's right.
Mountaineering.
Yes. And I became very curious as to why mountaineers and alpinists actually did that all the time, why they would risk life to do that. Because certainly when I was on the wall, we hadn't slept for over 40 hours climbing. And every single step was a step either to grasp onto the next minute of life or to plummet into death. And I knew that at the time. And yet I was not scared, because it was so dangerous and every step mattered so much that I didn't have time for fear.
Fear was a privilege.
Yeah, I was like, I'll think about fear later on.
Right.
I need to just stay alive right now. And I think that dance with darkness and with death was so meditative but strengthening at the same time. And that wall that we had climbed was throughout the whole of the night. So we never saw light. And it wasn't until we rappelled down the following morning, and that was already after we left the peak and came back down, that the sun started to, peek through this land of infinite snowy peaks. There weren't even any clouds. It was just this infinite landscape of snowy peaks, and the sun made its first appearance and the sky was orange. I just felt like I wanted to cry, because there's something about the sun coming up when you are going through a lot of challenges when you are climbing, and it just gives you so much more hope. It's like the first ray of life. It reaffirms everything about living, and it's just so comforting. And I think, just that experience was so magical that I understood why people did it. And I wanted to look for that again. So I've been mountaineering ever since.
Oh, beautiful.